And for more on the effects of digital technology on kids, we're joined by two guests, Diana Graber in Irvine, California. She's co-founder of CyberWise, a resource helping adults teach kids how to use technology safely and wisely. And our second guest, Devorah Heitner in Chicago. She's founder and director of Raising Digital Natives, which advises parents and schools on how to help children thrive in our digital world. Diana, let's start with you. How can kids use technology to their benefit? What's an appropriate age where technology can be integrated inside classrooms on a daily basis?
Boy, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's see if I can give you my short answer is, I think it really depends on how you introduce technology. And I'm a big advocate for teaching kids how to use technology well. So I teach a program called Cyber Civics, which is a middle school digital literacy program. So we actually spend a whole year talking about digital citizenship, which is the responsible, safe use of technology. And I found that it really takes that amount of time for a child to understand the implications of their digital footprint and their actions upon others. And then once they get those skills, they actually become very, very good users of technology. So I think, kids are pretty smart. We just need to give them a few tools.
Devorah, how can parents keep technology from becoming a distraction? I have a 4-year-old, and the iPad is something that we barter over all the time. And nowadays we see parents instituting time restrictions, or you have a certain time limit. What would you recommend?
Parents need to be great models for their children. How are we as parents using technology in front of our kids? Are we always plugged in? Are we checking our email during meal times? Are we distracted by the digital devices that we carry around? If we're using our devices all the time, it's very difficult for our children to see any other way to be in the world. So we need to, if we want them to unplug, we need to unplug and show them when are appropriate times to be connected and the pleasures of that and the good things that come from that, and also when it's better to be unplugged and really face-to-face with people in the room, or really focused on other activities.
And Devorah, I want to ask you, in addition to that, everywhere you go, you see babies and toddlers swiping at the screens. You see them in the grocery store. Mom or dad is shopping. They're in the cart swiping a screen. They're at the dinner table. We have friends that go to restaurants and they bring their iPad so their child can watch a show while they're eating so their parents can talk. How young is too young to introduce technology to children?
Well, developmentally, we think they don't get that much out of it under 2. That doesn't mean that a little bit is harmful in the opinion of many researchers, but they're not getting that much out of it. The really good apps for young kids are developmentally focused. So if you look at resources like NACI and the Fred Rogers Center, they will look at apps and say, okay, these are actually developmentally attuned for a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old. You don't just want to give a 4-year-old any app. You want to give them one that's really developed with 4-year-olds in mind. And you do want to spend time. The ideal apps are developed with passback in mind, so that they're being used ideally with a parent, or at least with parental understanding of how that app works, so that the child can engage with the parent about what they're doing. It shouldn't be something that they're doing completely in isolation at that age.
Diana, I'd like to get you to respond as well. I'd like to get your thoughts on how young is too young, and are kids smarter than their parents nowadays when it comes to using their technology?
Well, there's 2 questions there, so I'm going to tackle the second one first. And, that's our tendency as adults. We think the kids are so smart because they're so good at actually using the tools and touching the tools and making things happen. But we have to remember that it's just a tool, and it's how we use it that makes it so powerful. So, we're wiser than our children, so we can't discount that digital literacy that we have. And kids really need our wisdom in order to be good, productive, and ethical users of technology. So I think that's really important for adults to remember. And secondly, how young is too young? It really depends on what you're talking about. I mean, Devorah's absolutely right. There's things that are developmentally appropriate at every step of the way. But what I would say would be is that, as far as social media, which is the big thing that a lot of people are spending time, children are spending time on, is just to be cognizant of the age requirements. Almost every social media site requires children to be at least 13 years of age. And I think that's important for a lot of reasons, especially developmental reasons. So that's important. And the modeling thing that Devorah talked about is very important. If your child's getting on Instagram, guess what? It's time for you to get on Instagram. You know, they want us to understand their world, and the only way we can do this is by participating in it.
All right, Diana Graber, Devorah Heitner, thank you both. Wish we had more time. This is something we could talk about forever.